Hello and welcome to GG Weekend Watch, kindly sponsored by BetMGM, with myself, Andrew Matt and Dave Young, to look ahead to the action on Saturday, because of course it is Super Saturday at Newbury. And as well as that, we also have the Kingmaker Chase Day at Warwick. For all that, the Kingmaker itself isn't actually featured on ITV's televised schedule. So yeah, the feature race being pushed out, but we'll get more into that in a bit, because we have better kickstart with the action, because we begin at Newbury with an open contest. This is a 0 to 140 handicap hurdle for 4-year-olds and over 3 miles at 130. And we have 5 to 1 co-favourites of 3. So Dave, please solve this opener for us.
Yeah, it's a good looking race, to be fair, like quite competitive, quite a few you could make a case for. It is a 0 to 140. I'm going to do this every episode while the BHA's got them all wrong. 137 is the highest, which is on the blind side, the 12-year-old, and then 133 after that. So again, standards are slipping a tiny bit. But on mentioning on the blind side, last time he won was here, course and distance, at 50 to 1 off this mark as well. So for all the fact that he's a little bit older, I can see he is a 40 to 1 poke. I'll steal a phrase from Andrew: for the price of a lottery ticket, I mean, how can you not bet him? He's not going to be racing for much longer, is he? So it's not going to cost you too many more pounds. So I just thought I'd throw him in there as an early mention. Now, something else, this isn't to coin a phrase from Andrew, but this is probably something that's going to rile Andrew slightly, because I think I can make a bit of a case for Emitom in here. He ran behind Young Butler. Young Butler's he's only £1 better off with that horse now, because Emitom's run since and run quite well. But he bumped into Young Butler, who maybe you could say looks a little bit progressive and is favourite for this race. Bumped into St Davy the last day, who went and won easy, and I was on him when he got beaten by St Davy, and I can't believe how far clear they drew. I was a tiny bit worried about the ground for him, but he looked much more like the old Emitom then. Now that is sandwiched either side of him running at Haydock, where he pulled up, and that was Andrew's Alan King horses on a Saturday trend. But this is one of many Alan King horses on a Saturday I'm going to take a swing at. So Emitom, I do think, has got a bit of a chance, right? About 8 to 1. There's 4 places up for grabs. I think he's relatively solid for all the fact that he's an older horse. Touched on the blind side already. Skeltons have a handicap debutant on here, G.A. Henty, who would always be interesting for the conspiracy than anything, rather than form. I don't think his form really stands up. But as I say, on the balance of all of it, there's a few you can make a bit of a case for. I just think that Emitom has done enough to suggest that he's probably a safe each-way play in the opener.
A safe each-way play, and just to rile Andrew there as well. Dave did tee it up before we started recording that he might have some fancies from the Alan King stable, so he was asking to go first for some of these races, just to tee Andrew up. But just to mention before then, this is an each-way plus race with BetMGM. 1, 2, 3, 4 places on offer. Alan King horse for Dave. Andrew, what do you think of that?
Well, good old Davies rowing in with Hapless Al, but I mean, Emitom's the funny one, isn't he? He's gone from one sort of underachiever to another, and Warren Great Tricks to Alan King. He's actually done pretty well for Alan King, but he is a 10-year-old, and I know the form of his Ludlow second to the John Joe O'Neill horse St Davy was Frank last week, obviously, but you want to start backing Alan King horse on a Saturday, especially 10-year-olds who are single-figure prices, then you probably need your bump stuff. So I'll go elsewhere. I mean, on the blind side, I think Dave made a fantastic case for that one. This one's had 2 hurdle runs at Newbury, second in the Grade 2 to Thomas Darby back in the day, and a win. And I know he's a 12-year-old, but you wouldn't mind backing him each way at 40 to 1 as opposed to Hapless Al's 8 to 1 shop. So, I mean, the other interesting ones, I could half make a case for Equinus coming back off a break. He seems to, go well on flat left-handed tracks with Aintree, Newbury, Foss last form. So, having won first time out this season, coming back off a 2-month break, I thought Equinus could go well. American Sniper was half interesting on that Thornton run when he was 4th. He raced in the swamp on the inside rail that day, but I do worry about his stamina for this 3-mile trip. And looking further down the field, Kyntara is the one I'm probably going to side with. 3 runs for Mel Rowley, first, second to Geoffroy in that third times qualifier at Warwick, when taken off the lead and perhaps a little bit unlucky to go down in second place by 3/4 of a length. Very well back that day. I thought he's going to give you a really good run for your money. So tricky race. Certainly wouldn't put you off on the blind side at a huge price, but I'll go Kyntara.
Kyntara, I like it a lot. Then just looking for a surprise here, 8-1 there for that one. But both of you make a good case for the complete outsider of the field, 40-1 on the blind side. Should you want a little bit of an each way play in that each way plus race? Now we were supposed to be getting Warwick's feature race up now in the form of the Grade 2 Kingmaker Novices Chase, but of course that is just a 3-runner affair. And so probably rightly so, we've had a bit of a change up. We've seen ITV doing this with a lot of their scheduled televised races where they've been more than willing to mix up races that aren't as competitive to make way for a more competitive betting heat on the channel. And that looks as though what we've got now, because instead we have a handicap hurdle for 4-year-olds and over 2 mile 5 at 145. So Andrew, different race for us now, but a better betting heat as a result.
Yeah, absolutely, and great for the levy if that's the way you want to go, but perhaps not one for the purists. I mean, this is tricky. Astronomic View is interesting, having finished second to the Simon Earl horse Rare Clouds that Windtothelightning last time. I mean, Rare Clouds is a frustrating old so-and-so. He's one that I put up as a horse to follow 2 or 3 years ago when he ran well in the swamp on the inside rail at Leicester. Since then, he's been mostly running on good ground, and you're like, well, he's you look at his breeding, he's all about the mud, and since they've actually run him on soft or heavy ground the last couple of times, he's run really well. And I think Astronomic View in finishing second for that one, that was a good effort, likely to go from the front as well, I think, which is going to help at Warwick. We know this is a front runner's track, and yeah, Sue Gardner running a horse out of the West Country is probably a little hint in itself as well. So in the first time cheek pieces, I was quite interested in Astronomic View. The other one that I could sort of half make a case for was Warlord, who has been struggling over fences, perhaps not been running on the ground that he needs as well. And I can't believe, a couple of years ago, I put him up as a bet for the Holden Gold Cup at Exeter on ground too quick for me. He jumped like a hairy pig. So, yeah, Warlord, I think, is half interesting. But I'll go Astronomic View. But I think it could be a good race for the West Country trainers, this one.
Yeah, both of those. So Sue Gardner with Astronomic View and Go Tizzard then with Warlord. But yes, the Gardners, they are a shrewd operation. And first time cheap pieces goes on at that gelding. 11-2 for Andrew. Dave, who do you like?
I mean, I like both that Andrew said. I don't know. Do we stop recording now? Do we start again? I feel like he's nailed it as well, to be honest with you. What I will say about Astronomic View that wasn't said was last time out, I remember watching it and I just felt, I don't know, almost annoyed because they hammered the horse in the betting, and then with Lucy Gardner just sat on top, seemingly travelling like she had stones and stones underneath. The fact that I think Matty picked the winner as well that day, Rare Clouds, came and nabbed it on the line. I know it sounds really bitter. I didn't even have much of a bet in the race, but I was glad it got turned over. Lucy Gardner's not the most active in the saddle, I would say. The cheek piece have now been applied, but they definitely had loads in the locker that day. Was fully set up for her to get a winner, so I can't ignore that. He's only a 7-year-old, potentially on the up as well, whereas some of these ones are maybe on the way down. Warlord is one of those that, I'm not saying he's on the way down, but he's just been inconsistent full stop, hasn't he? I think he's 3 from 15 over fences, 3 from 11 over hurdles. Last time he did win over hurdles was a handicap hurdle off of 131, so he's the same mark, but he must be a better horse now for all he's probably not showing it. And sometimes he does start the season quite well, then peter off a little bit, but the first time he ever won a handicap hurdle was in February. So I think there's enough to suggest that he's inconsistent. Let's just leave it as that. There's not a time of the year to maybe catch him right. And this is a weak enough race. The Astronomic View race that he ran in the last day was a 0-125, but the top horse was 0-120. This is a better class. This is a class 2 now. So that might be enough to find him out with Lucy on board. And if one's going to do that, it's going to be Warlord. So what I will be doing is sort of like Dutch in it. So we're trying to get the same payout. It pays just under 11-4 because we can get 15-2 on Warlord and we get 11-2 on Astronomic View. So I think, let's for conversation's sake say it's 5-2 for one of those two win. I would happily do that. Can I just quickly say something on Santos Blue, just because he's favourite in the race? Lots of people say why we're not mentioning him. He did well to win last time out when the jockey lost his irons, but one of the main dangers, Benassi's Roddy Murphy, was found lame after the race, and his form second, which is by another Roddy Murphy horse, the 4-6, I think it was, has been significantly let down last time out. So I can't really see why he's as short as he is, for the fact that I can see why he's fancy. So we'll take them two against the field, please.
You two in agreement with the two and taking on Santos Blue, that dubious form at the head of the market. Now we head back to Newbury for the Grade 2 Denman Chase for 5 rods and over 2 miles 7 at 205. Now Shishkin, of course, is understandably so a short price favourite at the head of the market. So Dave, how are you playing the race?
This will be one where I think I'll just sit back and enjoy, because like Shishkin wins this as far as I'm concerned. The only horse that could possibly beat him is Protektorat, but the only way Protektorat beats Shishkin is if Shishkin does something a bit silly. And
which to be fair,
yeah, true.
The
thing is that's the problem with it, isn't it? Right. So the King George, for everyone can say that he would have won it, he didn't win because he fell. Obviously, the refusal, I don't think it's going to happen again, but you never know, do you? And then there are times before as well when I think like the ground and everything will be fine for him. He can go on slow ground, but there has been those bits of form where he's not travelled so well in his races when he has come on slower ground. So it won't be a problem for Protektorat. I don't see either of the top two, like it not being the winner. I can't see anything else possibly winning it. And I think the bookies have probably got it priced up about right. More often than not, you'd fancy Shishkin, but just I'd leave it as that. Shishkin to win, Protektorat, I don't know, would beat him if Shishkin falters, but let's just hope that Shishkin's back to his best and sets himself up for March.
Yeah, and hopefully he does, and hopefully he runs as well, and that because of course he was out of the fighting fifth because of the ground when it went heavy there. So hopefully Newbury doesn't get the massive onslaught of rain that might just come into the reckoning. But hopefully Shishkin runs though, Andrew, and hopefully he doesn't do anything silly. That wouldn't be like him.
Yeah, an interesting but shockingly poor race. I mean, for goodness sake, I mean, why have Willie Mullins and Gordon Elliott not sent horses over for this? I mean, their 92nd string could, win this. It's almost 50,000 quid to win. You've got Shishkin with form figures of RU. Should be playing Scrabble like that rather than a running horse. A 10-year-old who could do anything. Hitman has won once from his last 13 starts, when 13 to 8 on favourite for a Class 2 graduation chase. Protektorat is finding it hard to get his head in front. And I mean, you could make cases for Sam Brown, does he know? I mean, my tactic here is to have a play spot, stick all 5 in, hope that the ground turns soft or heavy. There's one non-runner, 4 runners, you've got to find the winner. Shishkin refuses, Hitman does a Hitman, and dogs it in the closing stages, and something like Sam Brown wins at 25 to 1. The place pot pays 84 grand for a quid. So it's a strange old race, but it kind of tells you where we are with British National Hunt racing at the moment in the Kazi.
Now, before we started recording, Andrew asked to toss a coin which mood he was going to turn up in for today's podcast. Is he going to be sarcastic? Is he going to be optimistic? I think we found our answer there, Andrew. Which side of the coin it landed on the back of that? So that was probably rightly so all the same, where, yeah, there's lots of question marks, but hopefully we get a decent enough contest all the same. Hopefully your play spot is still intact after that leg. Now we have another shorty up now in our next race, because it's time to go back to Warwick for a listed mares hurdle, 4-year odds and over 2 mile 5 at 220. So Andrew, 4 runners to go at this time. Are you a player or a layer of the favourite? You Wear It Well?
I'll probably be a layer, I think, at that sort of price. And I mean, the one I'm interested in, who I wrote up after her 4th place at Cheltenham to Nurse Susan, was Windtothelightning. That was at the December meeting, and I think just in sort of on price grounds, I'd rather side with that one, and because going to handle the ground. 1-3, was it 4 of the last 6 starts, not beaten a million miles in the others, and it's just. It's a tricky old race. Again, sort of place pot wise, apart from 66 to 1 outsider of 4 Blue Beach, you won't be hugely surprised to see any of the 3 win. But there has been money for Windtothelightning since the final declarations were confirmed, and I think I'd just side with that one. So I'm not sure what the ground's going to be like at Warwick. Very soft, possibly. Maybe it's going to be a bit slower on the inside. You want to be taking that wide route. And Gavin Sheehan is sort of adopted the Brian Hughes Muppet role recently in terms of taking horses to the swamp on the inside rail. He's had some absolute shockers, particularly at Catterick. His track craft is appalling at times. I know he's a good jockey. He's had a good season, but my goodness. when he rocks up in an unfamiliar track, he's not done his homework, and he's not adept at digging out where the best ground is on the track. And if there is a bias to the outside at Warwick, I doubt he'll spot it before anybody else. So I'll go Windtothelightning.
Windtothelightning. I sided with her last time. I thought she actually ran a really solid race when you were all with Nurse Susan. But she has been clipped in. Then she's now a 7-2 shot behind you. Wear it well, Dave. Are you again? I'll ask you the same question. Player or layer of the Fab?
Player, especially at 4 to 5. There are some bookmakers at the time of recording that are as short as 8 to 15. I would have comfortably a 2s on shot in here. That run the last day where she ran behind Marie's Rock, that was on good ground, so it was easier to stay. But I was surprised with how well she saw out the trip. Can I also just take us back? You've already mentioned that fight in 5th that was rearranged to Sandown. She was sent off 5 to 4 for a grade 1 over 2 miles when she's a middle trip horse. This is just a girls listed race. That's where, like, the 4 to 5, I will be trying to get some money on with Hill, see if I can get down the bookies after this. But when she's as short as 4 to 7, 8 to 15 elsewhere, I would let her go at that price. But you think back to her novice hurdling season as well. I know she won at Cheltenham, but her run behind Hermes Allen in that shallow hurdle was on really bad ground, and she was staying. So I've got 0 doubts about the trip. I've got 0 doubts about her ability. 0 doubts about the price when she's 4 to 5, but if she was shorter, I wouldn't play. So I don't see how she possibly gets beat, though. I think she's a relatively good thing, but then do we really trust the ladies on a Saturday? I'm not so sure. 4 to 5 on the better. I just wouldn't lay a full stop. She wins this easy.
What a line that is. Someone's going to clip that up and put that out of context. That's fantastic. From that perspective, probably not that trustworthy, to be honest. So I can get away with saying it. Right, that was the listed mares hurdle at Warwick. Now we move on to what I thought was a pretty trappy renewal of the Grade 2 Game Spirit Chase at Newbury, of course, at 240. Edwardstone is your current favourite here, but Dave, I found this tricky enough to solve and to separate a load of these with doubts over so many of these runners. But how did you separate them?
Yeah, this is a tricky one again, because from a price perspective, it's easy to have a real bullish opinion if you think they've got one wrong. I think the bookmakers, credit to them, have finally priced one up about right, which does mean that Andrew's going to get annoyed at the fact that I think Edwardstone has a favourites chance in this race. The run the last day where we ran behind Pickdorhy and Banbridge, we saw how good a performance that was from Banbridge, and we know how good Pickdorhy is around there. I didn't give Edwardstone that much of a chance stepping up in trip, but neither did his jockey. You've got a horse that's that keen, especially over 2 miles, then you run him over 2 mile 4 and you try to hold him up for an extra half a mile. I feel like it was stupid. He should have just let him go, and the result would have been the same. He would have been well beaten, but you would have at least let the horse run. I think this time round, Alan King, for all the fact that we know what he's like on a Saturday, we'll just say to Tom Cannon, just let him do what he wants. He's a 10-year-old. There's not going to be many more graded races this horse is possibly going to be able to win. He's not going to stay 3 miles to go into the Veterans Chase season next year. So this is his last time to shine. And I think he's got a favourites chance. Boot Hill won't want the grounds to be too testing. He's a 9-year-old, as much as it may seem like he's the young pretender. Editor de Geet was really poor the last day. Less of an excuse for me like I can make for Edwardstone's run, and they're putting cheek pieces on. I don't think when you've got a 10-year-old reaching with cheek pieces, it's the best thing to do. We saw what it did to Shishkin. It made him not even start a race. I'm not saying Editor de Geet will do that, but Edwardstone's better than him, I think. Fernando Savoda's won this, I think, the last twice, maybe? Which
Yeah,
is
that's
mad.
right.
But was beaten favourite last time on good ground. How he got beat a couple of weeks ago, and how poor he ran as well. It wouldn't be a surprise on the roll of honours if he won this, but it would be a massive shock to me. So I think he's almost a rank outsider in this race, all for the fact that he's obviously not. He's a good horse, isn't he? I couldn't have the other two either. So it's more like process of elimination. Edwardstone should win this one. I would rather he was a bit bigger, like a 5 to 2, 11 to 4 poke, because I would see him as an obvious shortener. But I think he might not have market support given the fact that he's an Alan King Saturday runner. So I will bet Edwardstone if he's a bit bigger than he is now. He's currently 7 to 4, but he's the most likely winner of the race for me. But how many times have we thought that for a Game Spirit, X horse is very obvious to win this, and then they go and get turned over by something? So very little confidence, but come on, Edwardstone, one more time.
Edwardstone, the solid play of a not solid bunch then for Dave. And I took the same approach as you, Dave, where I went through this race as a process of elimination. But for me, Edwardstone, he just has not looked the force of old. And previously, obviously, he stepped up in trip last time out because he looked as though he wanted to step up in trip. And then he was Ross and Keane last time out. And you're kind of thinking, is this just another go at him? And sort of they're really so kind of last chance saloon sort of thing for Edwardstone. So I was happy to leave him alone at that current price, as you say, for that. Then Boot Hill, he needs to prove that he's recovered from his fall last time out, going left-handed here as well, which was a bigger concern for me. Editor de G, he's tricky to weigh up, disappointing last time out. Fun and Bolsavola been well beaten this season, perhaps despite this obviously being his race, as you just said, he might just well be setting sights on something like a Grand Annual down the line instead this year. So because of all the doubts about those at the head of the market, I thought it would just be worth chancing Amarillo Sky at his current price, despite him having the doubts because he's got to defy a 378-day absence. Because he finished lame when we last saw him when he was 4th of 6 in the Grade 1 Clarence House Chase. He was beaten that day 9 lengths behind the reopposing Editor de G. But it was still a fair effort considering he was lame. And prior to that, he bolstered up over this course and distance in a handicap chase. And prior to that, he beat Fugitive, who's obviously gone on to bigger and better things since. 2 from 3 over fences, falling on the defeat when he looked like he was going to win anyway. So I thought Amarillo Sky at 11-1 might just be the way to go in a race full of doubts. But Andrew, I'm guessing, are you going to abandon Dave's selection, the Alan King trained Edwardstone there?
Yeah, I'm not just going to abandon him. I'm probably going to ridicule him for tipping Alan King 10-year-old. He's won once from his last 8 starts and looks to have completely gone at the game. I mean, you look at this race, the last 10 years, we've had 9 renewals. We've had horses, 8 of the 9 winners were in single figures. The only exception was the triple winner, Altior, who won it as a 10-year-old, went 3-1 on. And you just go back over the years and just back the youngest horse in the race, you're going to do pretty well. I mean, when Funambule Civil won it for the second time last year, he was the only 8-year-old in the race up against 3 9-year-olds, was a 7-1 shot. Now, I shared Dave's reservations having tipped him at Doncaster last time out, back in the handicap company, back on a flat left-handed track, back at the time of year where he traditionally runs so well. I was so disappointed by that effort that he could only finish 6th to Gabriel's Getaway. But you look at that, he was taken on for the lead. Although he was taken on for the lead by Calico, who reopposes here and is the 18-1 outsider of the 6 runners. Now, Calico was, pestered for the lead by Funambule Civil, saw that one off, and only sort of lost out close home. So I'm just going to go with youth, siding with the 2 8-year-olds in the race, Amarillo Sky, who I tipped up in Racing and Football Outlook earlier this week, who looked like a genuine Queen Mother Champion Chase contender last year. You know, he was one of those ones who was sort of, moving through the ranks of handicaps, and then sort of injuries struck. He'd been off the track for just over a year. But I thought, 16-1 into 11-1 since the betting opened when 11 o'clock on Thursday morning when the final declarations were revealed. I'll go with him and I'll go with Calico and split stakes between the pair. And, Editor de Geek, first time cheap pieces, 10-year-old, Boot Hill, like you say, he very rarely runs on right-handed tracks. I mean, sometimes that's because he's West Country trained. You've got your Wincamptons, you've got your X's, etc., down that neck of the woods. But it does look to be deliberate. And I think if you go back through it, he has jumped out to his right on occasions as well. So I think you can make good cases for opposing the front two in the betting. I can't believe anybody wants to back Edwardstone at 7-4, Boot Hill at 9-4, apart from Dave. So yeah, it's a funny old one. And again, this could blow the place pot wide open if the defeat of Shishkin hasn't already done that in the earlier race.
This would be a good play spot day at Newbury, to be fair, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Because I say some very dubious favourites at the head of it. Dave, you were promised
it's one of those ones where you kind of go full cover and you'll end up looking an idiot because it'll pay £9.60 and all the favourites will be placed, or it'll play 36,000 quid to a quid and it'll be a Maverick one. So go Maverick.
Go Maverick. Yeah, there's one. And Andrew's definitely being a Maverick today. Dave, you are anticipating it, to be fair. But to be fair to Dave, he did say 7-4 is probably a bit on the short side. So watching that price and hoping for a bit bigger near the time, should other people have such doubts, and he gets pushed out as well. Now, Andrew sided with the younger legs in our last race there at Newbury. I wonder if he's going to do so in this next one, because this is old boys to the fore now, but slightly quicker old boys, though, because this is one of the middle distance series of veterans handicap chases. 0 to 105 at 105, that would be something. 150 handicap chase for 10-year-olds and over 2 mile 4 at 255 at Warwick. So, Andrew, quicker old uns here. Whose legs still tick over the fastest?
Yeah, I was quite interested in Broken Quest here for David Dennis, whose runners have got a great record in veterans handicap chases. He is a 12-year-old now. He's been off the track for over a year, but it's interesting that they've persevered with him. I mean, you look at his wins, they've often come sort of approaching this time of year. You know, he's twice won in February, one in March and April a few times. So it's possible that he'll need this, and maybe he's one to side with next time, perhaps on better ground. But I thought he'd have a squeak. Interesting to see Do Your Job, who's one of the horses that Michael Scudamore took to Lucinda Russell, who I've sort of fallen for, a couple of times when he's run poorly. And he got back to winning ways last time. He's now rocked up for Charlie Longtham, but he's not changed ownership. That was quite an interesting angle, and he's likely to go from the front, I would have thought, as well. Although he was ridden patiently last time, he has often gone forward. Fast Buck has been nibbled at for Jane Williams as well. One of the 10-year-old, one of only three 10-year-olds in the race, which is traditionally, as we know, the angle to side with in veterans handicap chases. But I'll just go with the outside of the field, Broken Quest, and say David Dennis, veterans handicap chases. You make an absolute fortune following them blind, and the fact that persevering with a 12-year-old after a 399-day absence would perhaps be significant as well.
It would be, wouldn't it? Yeah, that is quite an absence for a 12-year-old to have to defy. But 16 to 1 on the outside of the field. And with BetMGM, this is an each way plus race. Only 7 runners in it, but 3 places on offer as well. So outsider of the field for Andrew, Dave, where were you looking?
Well, I just need to say, right, nothing in life makes me feel older than the ever increasing price of a Freddo. And then a veterans chase comes along and you just think, oh, God, where did all the time go? It just makes me want to get into my beanbag, turn my lava lamp on, watch Super Ted reruns, and just try and pretend I'm youthful again. But I said it again, like, it is very reminiscent of like the teddy bear's picnic, isn't it? They're like all the teddies you get out from all the corners of the house, and then after the race, you realise why you put them in the loft in the first place, because they're all a bit rogue sometimes, aren't they? Do Your Job definitely, I think, deserves to be ahead of the market. Often with these veterans chases, although they've gone up a couple of pounds to winning recently is good, and in the relative terms of a veterans chase, they can run off slightly higher marks and get away with it. So obvious one. I did think a bit strange, the stable move, but I wouldn't look at it as a negative. I do like Lily Pinchin, so I give him a chance. That Fast Buck's the same though, right? One last time out, up £2 again in the context of this, but his trip was 2 miles, so I don't see it as a positive for him. Good to see Diego de Charmille back, but I always thought he was a bit of a good ground horse, although when horses get older, sometimes they prefer a bit of like juice underfoot, don't they? And Riders on the Storm was probably one that was really interesting and would be my sort of token selection in here, because I think he must come on for that veterans chase debut at Aintree. That was on Boxing Day, where he was sent off a relatively short price favourite. He's been weighted with since, and while he can be a little bit in and out, I think he is a potentially quite a good horse. So in the context of this, he'll be the teddy that I'll cuddle tonight.
That's so cute. That is adorable. And also bring back lava lamps. Oh my God, if there was any takeaway from that, not only of course Riders on the Storm, but also to bring back lava lamps. What a treat they were. Right, that was a weird digression for the veterans chase, but we now sign off this section of the show with the feature contest on Saturday, the Betfair Hurdle, a premier handicap hurdle for 4-year-olds and over 2 miles at 3:15. And Willie Mullins, he of course has the favorite here. Now, this Castle des Mottes, he's making his reappearance start first time after 238 days. But of course, we know he is £6 better off in the UK as he is in comparison to his Irish mark. So it's deliberate that he's coming over here because the Irish and the British handicappers can't agree how to convert French ratings. So, Dave, I mean, do we think he's well treated? We know he is on his Irish form, but is he overall?
Well, that's it, isn't it? So I think it's like 2.2 they used, didn't they? The kilos to pounds thing, but it's in Ireland still, but we use 2. It's just strange because typically an Irish horse that would come over here with UK tax on, you'd be looking anywhere between £5 and £7, especially for the novices. So effectively a stone well in. And we saw, I haven't gone through the French one like I did with Gaelic Warrior, but we saw like with the Gaelic Warrior stuff. I know people will say, how can you get a handle on all those types of things? But Willie Mullins knows what he's got, regardless of what the horse has already done in France. So just to kick off with him, right, I used some stats to whittle down the Betfair Hurdle most years, unless I've got a real strong fancy on one. By doing that, it's typically a 5 or a 6-year-old. They're normally rated, sometimes it's 134 above I'll use, but to keep Altobello in there and a Castle de Motte, I've gone down to 132. And then they need to have had a number of runs at 2 miles. Ideally wanted to be prominent in the betting, but by whittling them all down, right, a Castle de Motte misses out on the fact that he hasn't run in the last 65 days, but wouldn't be enough of a worry to say stay away from him. He is 5-1 at the time of recording. There are loads of bookmakers doing extended places. I'm pretty sure one firm's doing up to 7 places. So it's one of those where you don't need me to tell you this, but I mean, you'd be a bit mad not to have a 5 each way on him because it's almost a free roll. You'd expect him to be there or thereabouts, but I would suggest taking him on a slight bit and having a go with something else as well. So what else do I take him on with, right? Altobello and Tell Her the Name, I think have question marks about going this way round, so I'm just being very dismissive of those. Spirit de Nu and Lucia, I do like both of those, especially Lucia, but they're going to need a seriously career high performance in here, and while they're obviously improving, I just don't think they've got bundles up their sleeve. So then that leaves me with the 2 JP horses, Iberico Lord Under Control for Nicky Henderson, and Under Control, how could you possibly bet her after that run at Newbury the first time where she just disappeared into a hole? But then last time in Mare's company, she looked quite good again. But then you think, is it Newbury that's the problem? Surely there's another race they could run her in. This is a fairly quick turnaround. Then Iberico Lord, the run at Ascot that Lucia won, you'd have to forgive him that. But then you look at his Greatwood and think that was decent. And then go back to his Ascot run where he was behind Under Control. He's a few pounds better off with her now. That was on soft ground, and arguably he was an unlucky loser that day. So all that said, I think Iberico Lord's pretty solid for the fact that he's come here after a reasonable break. That Greatwood win, the form's been franked time and time again. The Ascot run, I'll forgive him because I think the ground was too quick, and not every horse likes Ascot. I think Iberico Lord, he's top price 8-1, up to like 6 places up for grabs generally, I think. Can't see how he's outside the frame, so I will play both of them. I'll play Iberico Lord and a Castle de Motte, both of them little scummy each way bets because it's fun, isn't it?
Get that balaclava out right now. Yes, but I mean, it's this type of race. A Castle de Motte, I mean, you could absolutely route them for all we know. We're not entirely sure. 5-1 Iberico Lord, 8-1 looks a solid proposition. Then 6 places on offer, each way plus race with BetMGM. So do make sure you utilize that. Andrew, each way, or how are you weighing up this Willie Mullins horse?
Yeah, I'll just take it on really. 5-1 favourite in a race like this, where we've had 2 33-1 shots, 2 20-1 shots, and a 16-1 shot in the last 10 years. Iberico Lord, I think the key here is the size of the field. He needs a big field and strong pace because he can race keenly. Last time out, only 9 runners at Ascot. The winners made virtually all the running. Before that, he was a winner in a field of 15. He's got a big field and what should be a strong pace again. So that looks good. Origny Mill is interesting for Victor Darnell, but he's had 9 runs in his career, all taken place on right-handed tracks. Could be the West Country thing again, that he rocks up at Taunton, he rocks up at Wincanton. When he comes to London, they don't, they sort of stay west and go to Sandown and Kempton. They don't necessarily end up on left-handed tracks, but maybe that's deliberate. I don't know. Look Away could be taken onto the lead. Tell Her the Name I was interested in a few days ago, but with the rain now, I'm not so keen because he got stuck in the mud at Aintree on Boxing Day, and albeit in Grade 1 company. Brentford Hope and the cheek pieces was half interesting, but the 2 I was interested in, although I admit the ground's gone against one of them. Our champ for last year's winning yard of Chris Gordon. He lost his way after a couple of good ground wins earlier this season. He's had a wind operation. He wears a first-time tongue tie. Although, again, has the ground gone against him? That's the worry. But more interesting is Knickerbocker Glory. I'll steal the thunder of another podcast and talk about Knickerbocker Glory when he's been off the track for at least 5 weeks. Form figures of 1, 4, 1, 1, 1, 6 wins from 8 starts, a second and a fourth when he's been rested for at least 5 weeks. Seems to handle any going. So yeah, Dan Skelton's Knickerbocker Glory, 40-1. He'll do for me.
Beautiful form readout as well, I must say. That's been practiced well in the last few weeks on this show by Andrew. Right, my 2 selections in here, because I'm having 2 stabs at this, but I've done a bit of a switcheroo with the ground conditions because one of them, I mean, she's been pushed out as a result, and that's Lucia, but she's now 20-1, and I still can't leave her without having a bit of each way play in the hope that she handles the seemingly very likely pretty soft conditions. But the first play, therefore, and I'm expecting these two to be the opposites in the market, really, from what they actually are now. But I think ground conditions have played a significant factor in it. Is Spirit Danu, winner of 5 of his last 6, 5 from 7 in his career. His only defeat in those last 6 starts coming at Cheltenham when it was in a 4-year-old hurdle. He was just far too fresh and keen in that, but he was right back to it last time out, posting a career best, dotting up at Sandown on heavy ground in a competitive handicap hurdle. He was a comfortable enough winner as well, pulling clear with another progressive 4-year-old. That time 4 seconds quicker than the fighting 5th on the card. Now, he skipped the Betfair Exchange Trophy, which he would have had to have carried a £4 penalty in that. Instead, comes here after a freshen up. Hope not too much of a freshen up now, because I don't want him being keen again. But he looks to be nicely saved then for this race. Caelan Quinn taking the £3 off of his back. And I will have a bit on Lucia, who, as I say, has been pushed out to 20-1. David Bass taking the ride, reuniting with his old boss of Nikki Henderson there. And she's just a mare everyone knows I really like. And she's done little to put me off of her, really, in her 3 starts this season. Second behind it, You Wear It Well, who was obviously given a cracking front-running ride, as we know, at Wetherby. Third in the Great Wood, an even better effort. And again, she improved last time out, winning aforementioned competitive Betfair Exchange Trophy handicap hurdle, where the ground did suit her well then, and she was ridden more prominently also. Again, good front-running ride on her. £4 rise. Still don't think it's her ceiling. Back over the course and distance. She won that listed mares novices hurdle last season so impressively, but ground concerns. But I'm factoring that into her price all the same. Right, that's the end of our scheduled races. So, Andrew, I'll go back to you for anything from anywhere else this weekend.
No.
Perfect. Nicely done. Dave.
I'll just quickly want to talk on the Kingmaker, because Matata's in there as a short price favourite.
To wipe out his 2 rivals.
Yeah, that's it. But I know we'll go on to this into like a Cheltenham chat type stuff, but like, I think this horse is pretty good, to be fair. So as much as it is a feature race on the day and it's not covered on ITV, I implore you to make sure you watch the 3:30, because I think Matata, Darryl Jacobs just going to go off, and all of a sudden the 33-1 available for him for the Arkle will look mad, given the fact that that's a wide open race. That's not running money back as well. I've kind of segued off a little bit, but it's still somewhere from elsewhere. I think Matata bolts up. Obviously should do, but be a good win. Yeah,
no one go anywhere near to his left-hand side when he's going over the first, because he will bowling ball you.
Yeah, it's a funny one, because although obviously he needs to go left-handed, he still jumps out to his left and left-handed tracks into the wings of the fences almost. So,
yeah, don't go up his dinner.
Bit of a fruitcake.
Yeah, a complete fruitcake, isn't he? Yeah, he is. He's without the hood as well, isn't he, nowadays? Yes, so watch him if any of you are out there riding in the race, Tristan Dorrell or Freddie Gingell, just don't go on his inside over the first. Right, we will get on to Cheltenham chat then. So, Dave, Cheltenham angles this weekend. Anything else you're looking forward to for an anti-post play ahead of the festival?
So definitely Matata, right? Like I say, 33-1, non-runner money back. The Lumineers, we know they like to have a runner in the race. Just feels like it's an each way type of price, and it's going to be an impressive winner of the Kingmaker. Will be rated in the high 150s off the back of an emphatic performance, and was a painful 101 loser for me when got beat at Cheltenham by Liberty Hunter, threw the race away that day. We've talked about him jumping left. Imagine when they just stick some headgear on him first time up at Cheltenham. I think he's got proper chance. So he would be one that I would be considering pre-Cheltenham, because like I say, after he wins the Kingmaker, he'll be 12s or 14s, then you wouldn't want to go near him, would you? Over in Ireland, they got some good clues coming up if the weather obviously goes ahead. So in Naas on Saturday, there's a 4-year-old rated novice hurdle. Well, it's not a novice hurdle, it's a 4-year-old hurdle, where Nara's in there, which will be a big eye catcher for horses looking towards the Boodles. I can't remember the exact stats off the top of my head, but this is a race which has produced the winner of the Boodles quite often recently. So watch that. That's the 120. There's also on Saturday a Mare's Chase, which is real deep, to be fair. It's got Mascada in there, Instit, Riviere de Tel, Allegoria de Vassi. Allegoria de Vassi will be looking to put herself back on the winning train. I think she will rout these. I think she's going to win like an absolute good thing. She does have to give weight to Moscada, but she doesn't seem to be the same horse this season. And in turn, I think that means that Allegory Devassi will shorten up for March. Don't think Dino Blue is going to stay the trip. And I do think that Limerick Lace needs a bog. So if you're thinking about backing Allegory Devassi for the Mare's Chase, do it before this weekend. There's a Hunter's Chase after this. The names that are in here: Anamix, favourite for the Supreme for about 8 years in a row. Battle Over Doyen, Billaway, Hardline, High Tack, It's on the Line, Ramillies. And the good thing with that is we've got a couple of younger point-to-point horses in here that are going hunter chasing. So for all that Billaway is a stalwart in this discipline, this is going to be a very interesting race to watch, because if one of those youngsters, High Tack or It's on the Line, puts it to him, we could see a new favourite for the Fox Hunters in March. On Sunday in Navan, still over in Ireland, where the better racing typically is. Mares Novice Hurdle at 2:15. Brighter days ahead. Ireland's lead in charge as far as I'm concerned for the Mares Novice Hurdle, despite the fact that everyone likes this Jade de Grugy. Brighter days ahead for Gordon Elliott will be winning that race because they're absolute trash in behind, but go watch her. After that's the Boyne Hurdle. We see all sorts of horses that could run in here. Cider Burley, Asterion Forlorn, Blazing Carl, Hidden Valley Lake, Beacon Edge, Delta Work, Farouk Deland, Galvin, Sir Gerhard. It's a monster race, but the key takeout from all of that is Delta Work could be back on the race course. He's still about 4 or 5 to 1, I think, non-runner money back for the cross country, even though he's definitely going to go there. I think the way the race is shaping up this year, that's a good price, and I think he's going to win it for the 3rd time. So again, think about that before he races this weekend. And then there is the 10-up Novices Chase. This is always a pointer to something that's going to be short in the National Hunt Chase. Corbett's Cross fell, kind of brought each other down the other day. Don't think he'll turn up in here, but there are horses that are looking to qualify, like a Nick Rocket. Horse I part for the race, Manella Cocoon, is in there. So if you want to get stuck into one of those for the National Hunt Chase before they run on Sunday, you've got to do it before they race. Manella Cocoon would be the one that's still on my list for that race.
So much to go at then, and so much to look forward to this weekend, and proper competitive races as well to boot. So there are days at Cheltenham Angles. Andrew, what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Opera Hat, the 340 at Nace on Saturday, and because you've got Allegory Devassi and Riviere Detel, who both need to go right-handed. They're running a left-handed Nace. So Mascada going left-handed for the first time since winning the Johnny Henderson Grand Annual last year. Looks very interesting, and can perhaps cement her Cheltenham prospects. But yeah, apart from that, the other one we talked about, the Game Spirit Chase. Amarillo Sky, so 16th into 11th from Saturday's race, 100 to 1 for the Queen Mother Champion Chase. And from the kind of yard we've seen so many times year upon year, they have big priced horses run well in the graded contests at Cheltenham. You know, races like the Arkle, races like the Gold Cup, and I could see Amarillo Sky, running a good race on Saturday and then sneaking into the frame in the Champion Chase. So that was the angle I was looking at.
Oh, yeah, well, he is a big price. And as you say, and after the Tizzles had that bit of an upset there the other weekend, who's to say that he may not cause that himself, Amarillo Sky. Right, now, all that is left for me to do is to get your naps. So, Andrew, dare I go back to you first for this question?
No, go to Dave first. I think, I never thought you were going to ask me about a nap. So.
Dave, you're up.
This week's probably the first week since I can ever remember where I don't have like a significantly strong view on one or another. If Edward Stone was 5 to 2 or bigger, I would probably make him my nap, which would make Andrew laugh a little bit more. But in the purpose of what we've got on current prices, and he may never touch that price, although I'm sure he will, I will nap Riders on the Storm in the Teddy Bear Cup.
In the Teddy Bear Cup, the Teddy Bear's picnic race. Okay, like that a lot. Right, Andrew, who are you going with?
Well, I've got to take on Teddy Bear Stone and Boot Hill in the Game Spirit, so I'll go nap Amarillo Sky.
Okay, good on you. That comes off at 240, of course. I'll therefore go Spirit Danu then in the Betfair Hurdle at 315. Why not? Because I haven't got any sort of really strong convictions. I love Amarillo Sky though, so I'm pleased that Andrew has gone there. But I'll have a big swing then in the most competitive race of the day, and that is of course the Betfair Hurdle at 315 at Newbury. Right, that is everything from us on this week's show. So big thank you to Andrew and to Dave for all of their hard work as per usual. Big thank you to our sponsors BetMGM, and a bigger thank you to you at home for watching. Best of luck with your bets this weekend. Stay dry. It's pretty rainy out there, but enjoy all of the action, and we'll speak to you again next week.